You ever get that feeling in your gut? The one that tells you something's just off. That's what I had for weeks. Maybe even months. My wife Gloria had been acting strange, like really strange. We've been married for 8 years, together for 10. I thought we had a good thing going, steady jobs, no crazy fights, and we actually enjoyed each other's company. But lately, everything about her seemed distant. It was like she was there, but not there. It started small. I'd come home from work, and she wouldn't ask me about my day like she used to. Conversations that were once easy turned into awkward silences. And then there were the late nights. Gloria had never been much of a night owl, but suddenly, she was staying out late, always with some excuse about work projects or catching up with old friends. I didn't think much of it at first, but the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach grew louder each time. It's funny how easy it is to lie to yourself when you don't want to face the truth. I told myself I was overreacting, that it was all in my head. But then I started noticing little things. Her phone was always glued to her hand, and she'd turn it away when I was nearby. When I asked her about it, she brushed me off, laughing it off like I was being paranoid. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so bad. But one night, it hit me. I had to know the truth. No more guessing. So, I waited for the right moment. Gloria was in the shower, her phone left unattended on the kitchen counter. My heart pounded in my chest as I picked it up, hesitating for a split second before unlocking it. I knew her passcode. I'd known it for years. But still, this felt wrong. Like I was about to cross a line I couldn't uncross. I wasn't ready for what I found. Text after text, late-night messages with someone named D. I didn't know AD. Hell, we didn't know AD. The texts were vague enough that they could have been innocent. But then, there was the one that hit me like a ton of bricks. Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was collapsing in on itself. I scrolled up hoping, praying, there was some explanation, some way to interpret this in a different light. But there wasn't. It was exactly what it looked like. Gloria had been cheating on me. I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the phone, my mind racing. Part of me wanted to throw it across the room, confront her right then and there. But I didn't. Instead, I set it down, right where I'd found it, and walked out of the kitchen like nothing had happened. The rest of the night passed in a blur. Gloria came out of the shower, smiling, talking about some work drama that I couldn't have cared less about. I nodded, made the right sounds, but my mind was a million miles away. How long had this been going on? Who was this D? Why hadn't I seen the signs sooner? When she kissed me goodnight, I almost flinched. I laid there, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past few months. Everything suddenly made sense. The late nights, the distant looks, the phone she kept hidden like it was some top-secret document. I couldn't do this anymore. I had to confront her. But not yet. I needed to think, to plan. Rushing into this wouldn't end well for either of us. So, I waited. I waited for the right moment to blow everything up. I spent the next few days trying to act normal, but it was like living in some twisted alternate reality. Everything felt off. Gloria was still doing her usual routines. Making breakfast, heading off to work, texting me throughout the day like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. At least for me. I was a ticking time bomb. Every time I looked at her, all I could think about was those messages. Her fake smiles. Her lying, cheating self. I felt like I was going insane, constantly replaying our conversations in my head, wondering when she started seeing this D. Had it been months? Years? Had she ever loved me, or had I been nothing more than a convenient placeholder in her life? I started to notice more things too. Like how she would go out of her way to leave the house for errands that seemed to last way too long. Or how she'd get dressed up when she supposedly had a work meeting. Gloria was always a low-maintenance kind of woman, t-shirts and jeans, no makeup unless we had a special event. But suddenly, she was looking like she was headed to a fashion show every other day. It was subtle enough that I didn't pick up on it before, but now, it was all I could see. I needed answers, but I couldn't just come out and ask. Not yet. I needed more than just those texts, more than my gut feeling. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I started snooping. One day, while she was at work, I went through her laptop. It felt dirty, wrong, like I was invading her privacy. But at the same time, I didn't care. She'd already destroyed my trust, so why should I respect hers? I opened her emails, her social media accounts, her work chats. I scoured everything, looking for any sign of this D. For the most part, I came up empty-handed. Gloria was careful. Too careful. Just when I was about to give up, I found it. A hidden folder on her desktop, one I hadn't noticed at first. It was labeled work projects, which seemed innocent enough. But when I clicked on it, my heart sank. It was full of photos of Gloria and some guy. A guy I didn't recognize. They were at restaurants, in hotel rooms, even on what looked like some kind of vacation. All of them smiling, laughing, looking like they didn't have a care in the world. I wanted to throw up. The pictures were dated, going back almost a year. A whole damn year. She'd been with this guy while coming home to me, lying to my face every single day. I felt like such a fool. I closed the laptop, my hands shaking. I had all the proof I needed, but I still wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed a plan, a way to handle this without completely losing my mind. Over the next few days, I started paying more attention to Gloria's behavior. She seemed more nervous than usual, like she was hiding something, which of course she was. I wondered if she knew that I was onto her, if she could sense the tension in the air. But she didn't say anything, and I didn't either. We were playing this twisted game of chicken, waiting to see who would break first. Then, one night, it happened. I was sitting on the couch, watching some mindless show on TV, when Gloria came home late from one of her meetings. She looked different, like she had something weighing on her mind. She didn't even say hello, just walked straight past me into the bedroom. I could hear her pacing back and forth, the floor creaking under her footsteps. Something snapped inside me. I couldn't take it anymore. The lies, the pretending, the constant ache in my chest every time I looked at her. I needed to confront her. Now. I stood up and walked into the bedroom, my heart pounding in my ears. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, her back to me, staring down at her hands like she was deep in thought. "Gloria," I said, my voice coming out rougher than I intended. She jumped a little, turning to look at me with wide eyes. "Bruce? What's wrong?" I laughed bitterly. "What's wrong? What's wrong? Don't play dumb, Gloria. You know exactly what's wrong." Her face went pale. For a second, I thought she was going to deny it, try to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. But then she sighed, her shoulders slumping like she'd been carrying a weight for too long. "I didn't want you to find out like this," she whispered. I stared at her, my fists clenched at my sides. "How long, Gloria? How long have you been seeing him?" She didn't answer right away, just kept staring at her hands like they held some kind of answer. "Almost a year," she finally admitted, her voice barely audible. Her words hung in the air like a bad smell, impossible to ignore. A year. A whole damn year of lies, sneaking around, and betrayal. I couldn't wrap my head around it. How had I been so blind? How had I missed it all? "Almost a year," she'd said, like that was supposed to soften the blow. It didn't. I couldn't even look at her. The rage was bubbling up inside me, but more than that, there was this crushing sense of failure. How do you even respond to something like that? My mind went blank, except for the constant replay of that one word, betrayal. "Who is he?" I finally managed to ask, my voice flat. She hesitated, biting her lip like she was weighing her options. I could see the gears turning in her head. Was she going to tell me the truth? Or was she going to lie again, keep stringing me along? "His name is Derek," she said quietly. He works with me." "Of course. That's how these things always go, right? The coworker. The one who's always just a friend, until suddenly they're more than that." My stomach churned at the thought of her with him, laughing at inside jokes, sharing coffee breaks, sneaking off to God knows where. It was cliché, but that didn't make it hurt any less. "How long has it been serious?" I asked, my voice colder than I expected. Gloria flinched, like she wasn't expecting me to keep going. "I don't know," she mumbled. "It just happened. I didn't mean for it to get this far." I couldn't help but laugh, the sound bitter and hollow. "You didn't mean for it to get this far? What, Gloria, you just accidentally fell into bed with him? Accidentally started dating him behind my back for a whole year?" Tears welled up in her eyes, and for a moment, I felt a flicker of sympathy. But then I remembered the pictures. The texts. The lies. She had made her choice. "I'm sorry, Bruce," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I never wanted to hurt you." I shook my head, the anger flaring up again. "Don't give me that. You didn't care about hurting me, Gloria. If you did, you would have ended this months ago. Hell, you never would have started it in the first place." She opened her mouth to respond, but I cut her off. "Why, Gloria? Why him? Why do this to us?" For a moment, she didn't answer. She just sat there, her hands twisting in her lap, avoiding my gaze. And then finally she spoke. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I was just lonely. You were always working, always busy. And Derek, he was there. He made me feel special, like I mattered. I didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. Lonely? That was her excuse? I worked hard to provide for us, to build a future, and that was the thanks I got? She went and found someone else because she was lonely? I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice steady. So, what now, Gloria? Are you in love with him? Are you planning to leave me for him? She didn't answer right away, and the silence was like a knife to my chest. Was she actually considering it? Had she already decided? I don't know, she finally said, her voice shaky. I'm confused, Bruce. I never wanted this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you, but I don't know what I feel anymore. I stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. This was the moment where everything could change, where she could make a choice. Me or him. I need you to make a decision, Gloria, I said quietly, but firmly. You can't have us both. Either you end it with him, or... I couldn't finish the sentence. The thought of ending our marriage, of walking away from everything we'd built, was too much. But at the same time, I couldn't live like this, always wondering if she was sneaking off to see him, if she was lying to my face every day. She looked at me with tear-filled eyes, and for a moment, I thought she was going to say she'd end it. That she'd choose me. But then she said the words that shattered everything. I need time. Time? After a year of lying and cheating, she still needed time? Time for what, Gloria? I snapped, my patience finally wearing thin. Time to decide if you want to stay married to me or run off with him. Time to string us both along a little longer. I don't know what I want right now, she whispered. I need to figure things out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. She wanted more time, more space, more indecision. After everything she'd put me through, she still wasn't sure. I stood up, pacing the room, trying to process what was happening. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to break down, beg for forgiveness, promise she'd never see him again. But instead, she was sitting there, acting like she was the one who needed sympathy. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stand there and let her drag this out any longer. If you need time, fine, I said, my voice cold. But don't expect me to sit around waiting for you to figure out if I'm good enough for you. I deserve better than that. Her eyes widened, and I could see the panic starting to set in. She hadn't expected me to stand up for myself. She'd thought I'd grovel, beg her to stay. But I wasn't that guy. Not anymore. I'm going to stay with my brother for a while, I said, heading for the door. You've got your time, Gloria. Use it wisely. I packed a bag that night and left. I didn't even wait for her response. I couldn't. The second I walked out of the door, it felt like a weight lifted off me, but there was still this gnawing emptiness inside, like I was leaving a part of myself behind. I didn't know if I was making the right choice, but I knew I couldn't stay there in that house with her. I crashed at my brother's place. Kyle didn't ask too many questions at first, just gave me a beer and a sympathetic look. He knew something was up, but I wasn't ready to spill all the messy details yet. I needed time to wrap my head around what was happening. Gloria had been my entire world for so long, and now it felt like I didn't even know her. A couple of days passed, and I still hadn't heard from her. I thought maybe she'd reach out, maybe she'd finally realize what she was about to lose, but there was nothing. Just radio silence. Each day that passed, I felt more and more like a ghost. Everything was up in the air, and I hated not knowing where I stood. I started thinking about the pictures I'd found, the texts I'd read. It felt like I was trapped in this never-ending cycle of questions. What did she even see in this guy? What did he have that I didn't? Was it just physical, or was there something more? The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I wasn't perfect, but I sure as hell didn't deserve this. One night, after a few too many drinks, I finally told Kyle everything. He listened, shaking his head as I spilled my guts. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to sugarcoat things. He just let me vent. And when I was done, he said exactly what I needed to hear. You need to make a decision, man, Kyle said, leaning back in his chair. You can't just keep waiting around for her to make up her mind. Either you fight for her, or you move on. But you can't do both. He was right. As much as I hated to admit it, I couldn't keep living in limbo. I had to make a choice, either confront her again and try to salvage whatever was left of our marriage, or cut ties and move forward with my life. But both options seemed impossible. How was I supposed to forgive her after what she did? How was I supposed to trust her again? And yet, part of me still wanted to. Part of me still held on to the hope that maybe, just maybe, we could fix this. Maybe it wasn't too late. A few days later, I decided to text her. I didn't want to, but I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to come to me. So I sent her a simple message: "We need to talk." It took her a few hours to respond, and when she did, it was short and to the point: "Okay. Come over tomorrow night." My heart raced as I read the message. I didn't know what to expect. Was she going to tell me she'd ended things with Derek? Was she going to ask for a divorce? My mind raced with possibilities, each one worse than the last. The next night, I pulled up to our house, her house now I guess, and sat in the driveway for a few minutes, gathering my thoughts. The place looked the same as always, but it felt different. Like it wasn't home anymore. I wondered if it ever would be again. I walked up to the door and hesitated for a moment before knocking. It felt strange, like I was a stranger in my own life. Gloria answered quickly, and when she opened the door, I could see the tension in her face. She looked tired, worn down. I didn't know if that made me feel better or worse. "Bruce," she said quietly, stepping aside to let me in. I walked inside, and the silence was deafening. We sat down in the living room, both of us avoiding eye contact. The air was thick with everything unsaid, and I knew I had to break the ice. So, I started, trying to keep my voice steady. "What have you decided?" Gloria sighed, running her fingers through her hair. "I've been thinking a lot about us, about everything. And I know I've hurt you, Bruce. I know I've betrayed your trust, and I don't expect you to forgive me right away. But I don't want to throw away what we have. I want to try to fix this." For a second, relief washed over me. Maybe this was it. Maybe she really did want to make things right. But then she kept talking. "I ended things with Derek," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "But I'm not going to lie to you. It wasn't easy. I had feelings for him, Bruce. Real feelings. And I'm not sure I can just turn those off." My stomach dropped. This wasn't what I wanted to hear. I wanted her to tell me it was over, that she realized how wrong she was, that she loved me and only me. But instead, she was standing there, telling me that she still had feelings for the guy she'd been cheating on me with. I clenched my fists, trying to stay calm. "So, what are you saying? You're not sure if you want to be with me or him?" She shook her head. "No, I want to be with you, Bruce. I do. But it's going to take time. I can't just forget about everything that happened." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. She wanted to stay with me, but she wasn't over him. It was like I was being asked to share her, even though she wasn't physically seeing him anymore. I stood up, pacing the room. "So, what do you expect me to do, Gloria? Just wait around while you work through your feelings for another guy?" "No, it's not like that," she said quickly, standing up to face me. "I want to work on us. I want to rebuild our marriage. But I need you to understand that it's going to take time. I can't just pretend like this never happened." I stared at her, the weight of her words pressing down on me. How could we rebuild anything if she still had one foot in the past? I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring down at the wreckage of my life. Everything was shattered, and there was no clear way forward. Gloria's words replayed in my head, over and over, like a broken record. I can't just forget about everything that happened. What did she expect from me? To sit around while she processed her feelings for the man she'd been seeing behind my back? To pretend everything was normal while she figured out if I was really the one she wanted? I didn't know what to say, so I just stood there, my mind racing. The silence stretched on between us, and I could feel the tension in the room growing thicker. Gloria shifted awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with the weight of the conversation. "I'm not asking you to be okay with this," she said softly, breaking the silence. "I know I screwed up, and I know it's going to take time for you to trust me again. But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right." I stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could fix this, that we could somehow go back to the way things were before. But deep down, I knew that wasn't possible. You can't unbreak something once it's been shattered. The cracks would always be there, no matter how hard we tried to patch them up. "You say you want to fix this," I said slowly, my voice barely above a whisper. "But how can we even begin to fix something when you're still not sure how you feel about him?" Gloria flinched, like my words had hit her harder than she expected. "It's not like that, Bruce. I ended things with Derek because I know it's you I want. I can't turn off my feelings overnight. I need time to heal, just like you do." I shook my head, the frustration boiling over. "You're asking me to give you time, but what about me? What about the time I've spent thinking you were loyal, thinking we were happy? You've had a whole year to figure out your feelings, Gloria. I'm just now finding out about all of this, and you want me to be patient while you process? What about my process?" She didn't have an answer for that. She just stood there, looking at me with those wide tear-filled eyes, like she was waiting for me to magically fix everything. But I couldn't. I didn't know how to. I need space, I finally said, my voice cracking. I can't do this right now. I need to figure out what I want, too. Her face crumpled, and for a second, I thought she might beg me to stay. But instead, she nodded, wiping away the tears that had started to fall. I understand, she whispered. Take all the time you need. I grabbed my keys and walked out of the house without another word. As I drove away, the knot in my chest tightened, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I was leaving something important behind. But at the same time, I felt this overwhelming sense of relief. I didn't have to face it anymore, at least not right now. I didn't have to look at her and wonder if she was thinking about him, if she was comparing us, if she was wishing she was with him instead of me. I drove around aimlessly for hours, not really thinking about where I was going. My mind was a mess, a swirl of anger, hurt, and confusion. How was I supposed to move forward when everything I thought I knew had been flipped upside down? How could I ever trust her again, knowing she still had feelings for another man? I ended up back at Kyle's place late that night. He didn't ask questions this time, just handed me another beer and sat with me in silence. He'd always been the kind of guy who knew when to talk and when to just be there. I needed that more than anything right now. Is it worth it? I finally asked, breaking the silence. Kyle looked at me, confused. What do you mean? Is it worth it trying to fix things? Or is this just done? Is there even a point in trying anymore? He sighed, leaning back in his chair. That's not a question anyone can answer for you, man. You've got to figure out what you want. Do you still love her? I didn't know how to respond to that. Did I still love Gloria? Of course I did. But love wasn't enough anymore, was it? Love couldn't fix betrayal. It couldn't erase the memories of what she'd done. It couldn't make her stop feeling the way she felt about Derek. I don't know, I said quietly. I don't know if love is enough. Kyle nodded, not pressing the issue. We sat in silence for a while longer, the weight of everything hanging between us. Eventually, I crashed on the couch, but sleep didn't come easily. My mind kept racing, replaying everything over and over again. The next morning, I woke up to a text from Gloria. Just seeing her name on my phone screen made my stomach twist. I didn't know if I was ready to talk to her yet, but curiosity got the better of me, and I opened the message. I've been thinking a lot about us. I want to try counseling. I think it could help. Counseling. Part of me was relieved that she was at least trying to find a solution. But another part of me couldn't help but feel like it was too little, too late. Could counseling really fix what was broken between us? Could it help me trust her again, help her forget about Derek? I didn't reply right away. I wasn't ready to make that decision yet. Instead, I spent the next few days trying to clear my head, going for long walks, talking things out with Kyle. I needed to figure out if I even wanted to try and fix things, or if it was time to move on. Eventually, though, I realized that I couldn't avoid it forever. I had to make a choice. I couldn't keep running away from the problem, hoping it would fix itself. So, after days of agonizing over it, I finally texted her back. Okay. Let's try counseling. I didn't know what to expect from counseling. Part of me hoped it would be some kind of miracle, that the therapist would wave a magic wand and everything would go back to how it was before. The other part of me, the more realistic part, knew it wasn't going to be that easy. There were no quick fixes for this kind of damage. Gloria and I met with a marriage counselor a week later. I was a ball of nerves walking into that office, unsure of what I'd say, what she'd say. We sat in the waiting room in awkward silence, barely looking at each other. It felt like we were two strangers sitting next to each other, and the distance between us felt insurmountable. The counselor, a middle-aged woman named Dr. Reed, greeted us with a warm smile and ushered us into her office. It was one of those cozy spaces, with dim lighting and comfortable chairs that made you feel like you were supposed to open up and spill your darkest secrets. I wasn't sure I was ready for that. We sat down, and Dr. Reed looked between us, her expression calm and neutral. So, why don't we start with why you're both here today? I glanced at Gloria, hoping she'd speak first, but she just looked down at her hands, avoiding my gaze. Typical. She'd always been good at avoiding the hard stuff. I guess we're here because... I started, then paused, trying to find the right words. Because things have fallen apart. Gloria. She's been having an affair, and I found out about it. Dr. Reed nodded, not looking surprised. How long has the affair been going on? Almost a year, I said flatly, the words still tasting bitter in my mouth. Gloria flinched, but she didn't say anything. She just sat there, looking ashamed, like she was too scared to even speak. And how did you find out? Dr. Reed asked, turning her attention to me. I hesitated. I didn't really want to get into the details, but this was counseling, right? I had to be honest if we were going to make any progress. I found her secret phone, I admitted. She'd been hiding it from me. That's how I found out about Derek, the guy she's been seeing. Dr. Reed nodded again, her face calm and non-judgmental. And Gloria, how are you feeling about everything? What do you hope to accomplish with counseling? Gloria took a deep breath, her voice shaky when she finally spoke. I want to try and fix things. I know I've hurt Bruce, and I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I still love him. I want to rebuild our marriage, if he'll let me. Her words hung in the air, and I could feel everyone waiting for my reaction. Did I believe her? Could I believe her after everything? My heart was still so full of anger, but underneath it all, there was this tiny flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, we could fix this. But then I thought about Derek, about how she'd still had feelings for him even after ending things. Could I really compete with that? Dr. Reed must have sensed my hesitation because she leaned forward slightly. Bruce, what are you feeling right now? I swallowed hard, trying to get my thoughts in order. I don't know, I said honestly. I'm angry. I'm hurt. I feel like everything I thought I knew about my wife, about my marriage, was a lie. But at the same time, I don't want to just throw it all away. I want to believe we can fix this, but I don't know if we can. Dr. Reed nodded thoughtfully. It's completely normal to feel conflicted, Bruce. Trust takes time to rebuild, and it's not something that happens overnight. Both of you are going to have to put in a lot of work if you want to move forward. Gloria, you mentioned that you want to rebuild your marriage. What steps are you willing to take to earn Bruce's trust back? Gloria bit her lip, her eyes flicking nervously between me and Dr. Reed. I'll do anything, she said quietly. I'll be completely transparent. No more secrets, no more lies. I'll stop seeing Derek, I'll delete his number, block him on everything. Whatever it takes, I'll do it. Her words sounded good, but I couldn't help the doubt creeping in. She'd already lied to me for a year. How was I supposed to trust her now, just because she said she'd do better? And Bruce, Dr. Reed continued, turning her focus back to me. What do you need from Gloria in order to even consider rebuilding this relationship? I took a deep breath, the weight of everything pressing down on me. What did I need? Could anything she did really make up for the betrayal? I need honesty, I said slowly. Real, complete honesty. No more half-truths, no more hiding things. I need to know that if we're going to move forward, she's committed to me, and only me. Gloria nodded eagerly. I can do that, she said. I promise, Bruce. I'll be honest with you from now on. Dr. Reed gave us both a small smile. That's a good start. But remember, rebuilding trust is a process. It's not just about saying the right things. It's about actions. Both of you will need to be patient with each other, and it's going to take time. Are you both willing to put in that effort? I hesitated, glancing at Gloria. Her eyes were filled with desperation, like she was begging me to say yes. And part of me wanted to. Part of me wanted to believe that we could fix this, that we could get back to where we used to be. But the other part of me, the part that was still hurting, wasn't so sure. Yeah, I said quietly. I'm willing to try. The session ended on that note, and as we walked out of the counselor's office, I felt a strange mix of hope and uncertainty. We'd taken the first step, but I didn't know if it was enough. I didn't know if anything would ever be enough. Over the next few weeks, we went to more counseling sessions, and slowly, things started to change. Gloria was doing everything right. She was transparent, she blocked Derek on everything, she stopped hiding her phone. She was putting in the work, and I could see that. But no matter how hard she tried, there was always this nagging doubt in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't telling me everything. One night, about a month into counseling, I woke up in the middle of the night to find her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at her phone. My heart sank. Gloria, I said, my voice hoarse from sleep. What are you doing? She jumped, startled, and quickly put the phone down. Nothing, she said quickly. I was just checking something. I reached for the phone, but she pulled it away, her face pale. That was all the confirmation I needed. She was still hiding something. What's on the phone, Gloria? I asked, my voice low and dangerous. She shook her head, tears filling her eyes. It's nothing, Bruce, I swear. Give me the phone, I demanded, my heart pounding in my chest. Gloria's hand trembled as she held the phone close to her chest, her eyes wide with panic. I could feel the anger boiling inside me, my heart racing with adrenaline. This was it. This was the moment I had been dreading, the moment when I'd finally find out if she was still lying to me.
Give me
the phone, I repeated, my voice low but full of fury. She hesitated for a second longer, but she must have known there was no way out. Slowly, with shaky hands, she handed me the phone. I snatched it from her and immediately unlocked it. My fingers moved quickly, navigating through her messages, her social media, anything that would give me the answers I needed. And then I found it. An email account I didn't recognize. I opened the app, my heart pounding in my chest, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There were dozens of messages between Gloria and Derek, but they weren't what I expected. These messages weren't full of love or apologies. No, they were something much worse. The first few messages were harmless enough. Gloria had reached out to him after our last counseling session, saying that she was trying to move on and needed closure. But the further I scrolled, the more I realized that this wasn't just about closure. It was about something far more sinister. The emails were filled with discussions about me, about how I would never find out the truth, about how they had manipulated the situation so perfectly. Gloria had been playing me this entire time, stringing me along, pretending to want to fix things while secretly keeping her connection with Derek alive. But it didn't stop there. There were more emails, ones where they talked about how to continue seeing each other without me knowing. They had backup plans, contingency strategies for every possible scenario.
And the worst part?
Derek had been using a fake name the entire time. Derek wasn't even his real name. He was someone from my past, someone I had once considered a friend. I scrolled down further, my hands shaking as I uncovered more and more of their twisted plan. Gloria and Derek had been planning this affair for years. It wasn't just a fling. It wasn't even about love anymore. It was about control, about making sure I was trapped in a situation where I could never leave her. There were messages where they discussed how they had gaslit me, made me doubt myself. They'd manipulated my emotions, made me think I was the one being unreasonable. Every time I had questioned her, every time I had felt like something was wrong, they had worked together to make me feel like I was going crazy. I felt sick. I couldn't believe what I was reading. But then, I came across the final email, the one that shattered everything I thought I knew. It was from Gloria, sent just a few days ago. It was short, but it was enough to destroy any hope I had left. I can't do this anymore. Bruce is getting suspicious. We need to end this, but don't worry, the plan is still in place. Once it's done, he'll never know what hit him. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering in my chest.
What plan?
What were they going to do to me? I looked up at Gloria, who was now sitting on the edge of the bed, her face pale, tears streaming down her cheeks. She knew I had seen everything. She knew there was no hiding anymore. What is this? I demanded, my voice shaking with rage. What the hell is this, Gloria? She didn't answer right away. Instead, she buried her face in her hands, sobbing uncontrollably. But I didn't have any sympathy left. Not after everything I had just uncovered.
Tell me.
I shouted, my voice echoing in the small bedroom.
What was the plan?
What were you going to do to me? Gloria looked up at me, her eyes swollen and red from crying.
Bruce.
I'm sorry, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't mean for it to go this far. What do you mean, you didn't mean for it to go this far? You've been lying to me for years. You and Derek, or whoever the hell he really is, have been planning this.
What was the plan, Gloria?
What were you going to do? She shook her head, her sobs growing louder. It wasn't supposed to be like this, she cried. It started out as a stupid game, just to mess with you. Derek thought it would be funny to make you paranoid, to make you question everything. But then it got out of hand, and I didn't know how to stop. My mind was spinning.
A game?
This whole thing had been some kind of sick joke? You've got to be kidding me, I said, my voice trembling with disbelief. You're telling me you and Derek have been toying with my life, my marriage, for your own amusement? She nodded miserably, unable to meet my eyes. I'm so sorry, Bruce, she whispered. I didn't want it to end like this. I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Nothing made sense anymore. My own wife had betrayed me in the most twisted, heartless way possible, and now I was standing there, holding the evidence in my hands, not knowing what to do with it. You're sorry. I repeated, my voice cold. That's all you have to say? You're sorry. She nodded again, sobbing into her hands. But her tears didn't move me. They didn't erase the betrayal or the lies. They didn't fix anything. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, staring at her, my mind racing. I had no idea what to do next. Part of me wanted to walk out the door and never look back. Part of me wanted to scream, to break something, to make her feel the pain she had caused me. But mostly, I just felt empty.
Hollow.
Like everything that had ever mattered to me had been ripped away in one fell swoop. Finally, I spoke, my voice barely above a whisper.
Get out.
Gloria looked up at me, confused.
What?
I said get out, I repeated, my voice growing louder. I don't want to see you anymore. I don't want to hear another word from you. Just leave. She stared at me for a moment, her face pale with shock. Bruce, please.
Get out.
I didn't shout it, but the force behind the words was enough to make her scramble off the bed, grabbing her things in a panic. Within minutes, she was gone, the door slamming shut behind her. And just like that, I was alone. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, trying to process everything. My life had just crumbled before my eyes, and I didn't know how to pick up the pieces. And worst of all, I still didn't know what their plan had been. Whatever it was clear that it wasn't over.
Not yet.
The silence after Gloria left was suffocating. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at the door, trying to piece together everything I had learned. She was gone, but the weight of her betrayal lingered in the room, like a dark cloud that wouldn't dissipate. I still didn't know what the plan was. What had Gloria meant when she said, "Once it's done, he'll never know what hit him"? That phrase kept echoing in my mind. I tried to tell myself it was over, that she was gone and there was nothing left for her to do. But the nagging feeling in the pit of my stomach wouldn't go away. Something was still off. I sat down on the edge of the bed, Gloria's phone still in my hand. I scrolled back through the emails, looking for any hint, any clue about what they had been planning. There were messages about me, about our marriage, about how they'd manipulated me, but nothing that directly explained what they were going to do next. That's when I noticed an email thread I hadn't opened yet. It was buried at the bottom of her inbox, almost like she'd wanted to hide it. The subject line was simple, the final step. My heart skipped a beat as I opened it. Inside was a conversation between Gloria and Derek, discussing details about my life, my job, my bank accounts. They were planning something much bigger than I had imagined. It wasn't just about ruining my marriage. It was about ruining my entire life. The emails revealed everything. Over the past year, Gloria and Derek had slowly been siphoning money from our joint accounts, making small withdrawals that I wouldn't notice. They'd been setting up fake accounts in my name, racking up debt, creating a trail that led back to me. They were planning to make me look like I'd been embezzling from my company. It was a meticulously crafted plan, one designed to not just destroy my marriage but to destroy me financially, professionally, and personally. They'd already started the process. According to the emails, Derek had connections with people who could make the accusations stick. All it would take was one call, one push, and my entire career would implode. I'd lose everything. I felt like I couldn't breathe. My mind raced as I tried to figure out what to do next. I had to stop this. I had to stop them. My hands shook as I grabbed my phone and dialed my boss's number. It was late, way too late to be calling, but I didn't care. I needed to get ahead of this before it was too late. The phone rang several times before my boss finally answered, his voice groggy.
Bruce?
What the hell is going on? I'm so sorry to call you this late, I blurted out, my voice shaking. But I need to talk to you. It's about something serious. Something I just found out. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. This better be good, Bruce. Do you know what time it is? I know, I said quickly, pacing back and forth.
But it's urgent.
There's something going on. Someone's been setting me up, trying to make it look like I've been stealing from the company.
I have proof.
I can explain everything, but I need you to trust me. My boss sighed, clearly irritated. This sounds insane, Bruce. You're telling me someone's framing you for embezzlement. Yes, I said, desperation creeping into my voice. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm not making this up. I can send you the emails, the proof, just give me a chance to explain. There was another long silence, and I could hear him sigh again.
Fine.
Send me what you have. But Bruce, if this is some kind of prank, or if you've really been involved in something shady, it's not going to end well for you. You understand that, right? I understand, I said quickly. Just give me a chance to prove myself. I hung up the phone and immediately forwarded the emails to him, hoping it would be enough. I felt sick to my stomach, the fear of what was coming next hanging over me like a guillotine. If this didn't work, if my boss didn't believe me, I could lose everything.
Hours passed. I didn't sleep. I couldn't.
My mind was racing, trying to figure out what else Gloria and Derek had done that I didn't know about yet. How much damage had they already caused? How far had they gone to ruin my life? Finally, as the sun started to rise, I got a call from my boss. "Bruce," he said, his voice more serious than I'd ever heard it before. "I looked through the emails you sent. And I've been digging into the accounts. I don't know how to say this, but you're right. Something's not adding up." A wave of relief washed over me. "Thank you," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for believing me."
"But," he continued, "this isn't over. We need to get legal involved.
"And the authorities. If someone's been framing you, we need to find out who and how deep this goes." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me.
"I understand.
Whatever it takes." For the next few weeks, my life became a whirlwind of lawyers, investigators, and endless meetings. They uncovered the fake accounts, the debt in my name, and the fraudulent transactions. It was all there, just like the emails had said. But here's the kicker: Derek, if that was even his real name, was nowhere to be found. He had vanished.
And Gloria?
She wasn't much help either. When the investigators questioned her, she played dumb, acting like she had no idea what was going on. She claimed she had been manipulated by Derek, that she didn't know he was setting me up. But I knew the truth. She had been in on it from the start. In the end, the investigators managed to clear my name. I didn't lose my job, I didn't go to jail, and I didn't lose everything. But that didn't mean I walked away unscathed. The emotional toll was something I wasn't prepared for. I had trusted Gloria with my heart, my life, and she had tried to destroy me. The person I had loved more than anything had turned out to be the one who wanted to ruin me the most. I filed for divorce, of course. There was no going back from this. But even as I tried to move on with my life, the scars remained.
I couldn't trust anyone.
I couldn't sleep at night, constantly haunted by the thought that someone else might try to hurt me the way she did.
And the worst part? I never found Derek.
He was gone, like a ghost, leaving behind only destruction in his wake. Every now and then, I still wonder if he's out there, watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike again. Because even though Gloria is out of my life, I can't shake the feeling that this nightmare isn't over. It never really ended.
It just paused.